After spending the last 4 years away from home, the time had finally come to meet my family. The last time I saw them, I was 18, and I was leaving my home country in Argentina to travel to New Zealand for 6 months. I ended up spending 2 years there, and close to 2 years here in Australia. And now, my family was flying here so that we could go on a crazy month-long adventure through Australia. We would travel by car. We would go all the way from Melbourne to Cairns in just 3 days. Then, we would go north to Cape Tripulation, the place of swamps, beaches and crocodiles, before driving south, visiting Mission Beach, Magnetic Island, Airlie Beach, Fraser Island, Sydney, back to Melbourne and then Great Ocean Drive. We're talking about doing around 6,600 kilometers, 2,825 on the way up through the outback and 3,770 on the way down through the coast. All in 1 month. So yeah, short trip. Did I mention my parents are over 60? After 6 months of planning, the time had come. My dad, mother, sister and me were reunited again. It didn't really feel like I expected it would. Of course, it was an emotional moment, but shortly after I felt like no time had passed, like we had never spent the last 4 years separated from each other. My sister had arrived a few days earlier and we had already explored the outskirts of Melbourne together with her and Ali. Now, with my whole family here, we had 1 day to explore Melbourne, knowing that we'd return later. It was crazy to see how my family raved about this place. As someone who already spent 4 years in the first world, I guess I had gotten used to some of these things and I took them for granted. My family showed so much enthusiasm about everything, including buildings, bridges, pathways, windows, trees, toilets and more, that they reminded me how lucky I was to be living in such a great place as Australia. The next day I said goodbye to Ali, who I'd missed for the next 21 days. And we set out for our adventure. Even though I love Melbourne, it felt so freeing to be out of the city again. I was instantly transported back to the days where we would drive 2 days to go from Buenos Aires to Bariloche back at home. A trip I made every year since I was born until I was 18. Let me go on a little tangent about road trips. In my opinion, it is the best way to travel. Sure, planes are kinda necessary for some trips, but if the time allows it, nothing beats spending hours, days or weeks in a car, having plenty of time to catch up with your loved ones or to enjoy the view and really take in whatever beautiful part of the world you're exploring, to be able to make those 5 stops a day for coffee or to see places that you didn't even know existed. You might go from point A to point B in a car, but it's up to you how many points you see in between, unlike with a plane. We spent the first half of our trip in the north of Australia, and our first stop was Cairns. After Cairns, we headed up to Cape Tripulation, the home of beautiful tropical beaches, crocodile-infested swamps and the famous Daintree forest. To be honest, we only saw 3 crocodiles and we had to pay to see them, but hey, who's counting? Talking about the crocodiles, we booked a boat that drove through the swamps of this area to see the animals. It was rainy and muddy and the guide had a very thick Queensland accent, so we didn't understand squat of what he was saying. We really enjoyed exploring the beaches and the rainforest here. I had never been to this part of Australia before, and it was nice to view it from the eyes of a tourist. Yes, I came as a backpacker, but I had spent much more time working than I had traveling here, and the change of perspective really helped me, again, to take a step back and appreciate what a beautiful place I was living in. Next, we headed to Mission Beach. We stayed right in front of the beach itself, which was beautiful. We had a nice walk, my sister made some mates, my mother prayed to some trees, and my dad flew some drones. One drone. Once again, I was impressed by the beauty of this country. Once we were done with Mission Beach, we headed to Magnetic Island, which means taking the ferry. Here, we arrived at probably one of the best hotels I've ever stayed at, with a balcony almost on top of the sea. After years of sleeping in hostels and in my car, this was very welcomed. So, with that train of thought, renting scooters was a great idea. Next, our last stop with my sister, before she returned to Germany. I'm talking about Early Beach. This spot has some of the purest sand in the world, literally squeaky clean. One of the best things we did during our trip was take the scenic flights over the Whitsundays and, of course, the Great Barrier Reef. Our time spent here was amazing, and we stayed a bit longer than at the other spots, so we had more time to talk, to edit photos, get a haircut, get new ideas and whatever. I had many heart-to-hearts with my family during this time, especially with my sister. There are certain things about your life, yes, you, the viewer, that very few people will understand, but if you're lucky enough, your family will. Being able to go over past events with them reminds you of who you are and to separate yourself from certain reactions to certain things, see them from a different perspective and to act accordingly. We all talk about trauma when we refer to really big problems like the loss of a close relative or abuse or stuff of that sort. But everyone is, at least, a little bit traumatized. And oftentimes we react from that trauma instead of reacting from logical thinking. It's good to break the habit. Anyways, after my sister left, my parents and I headed towards Fraser Island. In case you don't know, Fraser Island is the largest sand island in the world. Yes, all of this grows on sand. There's maybe less than 1 kilometer of asphalt here, and the rest is bumpy. This is one of the most Australian experiences you can have. Everyone has a 4x4 here, and everyone's enjoying it, including us. Even though we were not alone, not by a long shot, I love the feeling of isolation that this place provides. I wanted to spend at least one night camping with my family, and I got what I asked for. At night, the stars shine brighter than in most places, and during the day, you might be able to see iguanas or the famous dingo.
¿Estás sacando video?
No sé.
Hola.
Hola. Uy, me veo un
Hola.
poroto.
Sí.
Estos son nuestros votos, dime algo.
Nuestros botes.
Votos. ¿Qué son votos?
Yo la verdad voto por mi ley.
And so, our journey in the north had ended, and our journey down south began. After Fraser Island, the time had come to meet up again with Ali. We met up in Brisbane, Then we drove to Gold Coast, Byron Bay, and finally Sydney. Yeah, as I said, short trip. I don't have too many clips since I was in a enjoy the moment mood, but it was great to show them the places I used to live in, the places I had traveled through as a backpacker, and it brought up many feelings. Sydney I had only spent 3 days in before, so it still felt like I was a tourist when visiting it. After Sydney, we drove all the way down to Melbourne, spent a few days there, and then visited Great Ocean Drive. Soon it was time to say goodbye to my parents. It had been 4 years since I last saw them. Now I had seen them for 1 month and it felt like 2 days. Luckily, I'll be seeing them again soon enough, but this was a once-in-a-lifetime trip and now it was over. It really was though. It really was once in a lifetime. To see my parents as an adult, after having left being 18, younger adult I guess, to show them where I've been living, to show them my life, to show them who I've become, and to do it while traveling such a great country. It's hard to describe what that means to me. I love my family to death, and we had our struggles. And to see each of us fighting our demons, coming ahead, triumphant, really made me realize what we are capable of. I was expecting to show them who I had become and what I had done on my own in these 4 years. But what I didn't expect is that I would feel this inspired by them. I was hoping that reconnecting with my roots would be good for me, but I didn't expect the feeling to be this strong. I remembered who I am, what I stand for, that I'm not alone in this world, and that there's people out there rooting for me, and I don't want to let them down. I've learned so much from this experience. I've ended past cycles, and now a new part of my life begins. If you follow my life, you'll know what I'm talking about. Thank you so much to Baba, Mami, Sasha, and Ali for coming on this trip with me. I will never forget it.
Wunderschön y los 4 juntos. ¿Quién no hubiera dicho?